Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahe Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahaihi. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Nanda Prajnam Nabhish Prajnam No Bhayada Prajnam Na Prajnana Ghanam Na Prajnam Na Prajnam Adrishtam Avyavaharyam Agrahyam Alakshanam Ajintyam Avyapadeshyam Avyapadeshyam Egatma Pratyasaram Prapanchopashamam Shandam Shivam Advaidam Chaturtham Manyante Sa Atma Savijñeyaha. So after having talked about the three Mithya Padas, the first three Padas are called Mithya Padas. Now the teacher is preparing us to receive the fourth Pada. And the fourth Pada is what? Turiya. It is the Atman, Savijñeyaha. It has to be understood. It has to be realized. Says here. Now, what is Turiya? It's a beautiful explanation. I don't think it can be bettered by any other explanation. Na Andaprajnaha. Who is Andaprajna? Taijasa. The dreamer. So, not the dreamer. In a language of negation, the teacher is bringing forth this fourth pada to your understanding, not a dreamer. Meaning thereby what? If the dreamer is conscious of the inner world, that consciousness belongs to Turiya. But the objects and the experience belongs to the Taijasa. Is that clear? The experience belongs to Taijasa. But without that consciousness, how can you be conscious of? You understand? But Turiya itself is not the dreamer. Consciousness, dreamer it is not. Na Andaprajnaha. Negation. He is not the dreamer. Na Bahishprajnaha. He is not the Vishwam. He is not the Veka. In other words, negating the first three padas. That's what he is doing in this. Na Bahishprajnaha. No, na Ubhayada Prajna. Meaning thereby that some people at least are sometimes sleeping as well as waking sleep, which you are very good at in the class. Is it not? Suddenly, we can see all that. And suddenly you get up as though nothing has happened. But we know from the face that you had just had a little snooze. You understand? So that is called neither a waker nor a dreamer. That state, that intermediate state. He is not. That is not Atman. No bhayada prajnam. Na prajnana ghanam. Oh, then maybe he is the sleeper. Deep sleeper. Deep sleeper state is what? Prajnana Ghanam. He has withdrawn every experience, waking, dream, every experience into himself, and it becomes a mass of consciousness and sit. Is it not? This is called the deep sleeper. Is it the deep sleeper? No. Na prajnana ghanam, na prajnam. Then probably it is consciousness. Huh? Yesterday Gurudev explained. This is not conscious, it is consciousness only when there are objects to be conscious of. Otherwise, what is it? That is how you have to think. Suppose there is nothing to be aware of, then can we call it awareness? No. Are you able to follow? Are you with me? If something is there to be aware of, it is consciousness. It is conscious of. Is it not? But if there is nothing to be aware, nothing to be conscious of, then what is it? It is not even consciousness. There is no name for this reality, which is when there are objects to see, it is consciousness. When there are no objects to see, what is it? Whatever it is. What is it? Which is capable of becoming conscious in the presence of consciousness, objects, in the presence of objects, is called Turiya.
We call consciousness as the Swarupa of Brahman.
Let it be. This is, the whole point here is that you cannot name it. For our convenience, we have named so many things. Even Brahman, there is no name. There is no such name. For our understanding and study, we have given many names to all these. But try to understand that is it consciousness when there is nothing there? It's not. Na prajnam.
No, naming is different, but here I am not prajnam, it says. Sat chit, I am not chit. I cannot say not chit, it's not. How does it fit in?
How does it fit in? Means there, Bhagavan is answering you. The fitting in doesn't, it becomes the consciousness, Bahishprajnaha, plus the Upadhi, it becomes Bahishprajnaha. But it itself is not Bahishprajnaha. It itself is not Andaprajnaha. With reference to that Upadhi, the mind, intellect, or whatever, with whatever you are seeing, the objects of the world, when there are objects of the world and when there is a instrument to see, then but you cannot call it as Bahishprajna. It doesn't have any such function. The attributes, the work, nothing is there. That is why we have to think much more deeply than till now. Till now we have got away with saying that it is Sachidananda, very happy. Understand? But now the teacher says, you cannot explain it with any word. That indescribable truth. You cannot even call it as consciousness. Consciousness is a status bestowed upon it when with reference to the objects. Witnesshood is a status we have given to the Atman. It is not its. Whatever comes in front of it gets illumined. That's all. It is not a illuminator. Okay. No, it's very tough. Let it be. Try to understand. The teacher is trying to explain something which can never be explained. So you have to have some kindness towards the teacher who is struggling. He says, na prajnam, not even consciousness. Then what it is? Nor that which is a mass of consciousness, nor that which is simple consciousness. Oh, then it must be unconscious. Na prajnam. Don't think. Yesterday we saw in the other example, sada, always conscious. Isn't it? Always conscious is Turiya. So, in other words, you cannot give an appendix to it. You cannot put a explanatory mark for Turiya. Within the Vaikar ego, it is the Bahish Prajna. You understand? In the dreamer, it is the Andaprajna. But by itself, it is neither Andaprajna nor Bahish Prajna. So understand it that way. And he says, na prajnam, na prajnam. You cannot call it unconsciousness, you cannot call it consciousness, you cannot call it anything. Anything that the name that we can give it is with reference to the upadhi through which it is expressing. But by itself it has no name. Let this sink into your mind. Because we are used to a style of always definitions. God defined this, God defiled. You cannot define it. Here the teacher says, don't try to define it. That's all he said. Is he a Vaikar? But is he not a Vaikar? Huh? Without him there is no waking experience. Is he a dreamer? He is not a dreamer. But without him no dream is possible. Oh, better is not to know about that. Only thing is repeat the words. Nanda prajnana baish prajnana pratyanaganam. Understand it that way. Cannot be, in other words, here we will read Gurudev's commentary also on this so that it becomes easier for you. Adrishtam, now he positive explanations given. So far, negative. Not that, not that, not that, not that. Over. So he says here, Adrishtam. Adrishtam in my book. Adrishtam or Adrishyam it is? Adrishtam is better, I think. Adrishtam. It cannot be seen. It is not a drishya vastu. It is not an object. It is not an object to be seen by your sense organs. The agojaram, indriya agojaram cannot be seen by the sense organs. It's called adrishtam. Adrishtam, avyavahadyam. And it cannot be which is simple, nor related to anything, unseen by the sense organs. Adrishtam. Avyavahadyam. It is not something with which you can have a relation. Pardon?
Cannot deal with it.
Deal with it. Or it is not related to anything. That is what Gaudapada says later on, asparsham. Never touching anything in this world. It's a very peculiar relationship that we have with Atman. That is why it is difficult to understand. Every other thing there is a relationship for us. But with this there is no relationship. He says avyavaharyam, and hence you cannot have a a relationship with it in the vyavaharika world. It doesn't have. It doesn't have any vyavaharam with you. Avyavaharyam agrahyam, not available for your karma indriyas, grahyam. Or it can be mind, understood by the mind. It cannot be understood by the mind, which is said later, ajintyam. Okay, it cannot be understood by the mind, it cannot be understood by the it cannot be held by the karmendriyas, it cannot be understood by the jnanendriyas. See how the teacher here is struggling to tell you what is Atman. It's very, very difficult, that fourth state. And he says, not related to anything, incomprehensible by the mind, and ajintyam, agrahyam, avyavaharyam, alakshanam, ajintyam. Alakshanam, there is no lakshanam for you to recognize it. There is no sign by which you can recognize that. Is it there or not? That is what will come to our head. Is it not? Is such a thing there? I cannot see it, I cannot hear it, I cannot understand it in any relationship, in any vyavhar. Then I doubt whether it exists. So many people say there is no God or anything. Is it not? So he says, alakshanam ajintyam, cannot be thought of by the mind. What does Taittiriya say? Yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasa saha. Yato vacho nivartante. Words cannot tell you about it. Manasa saha aprapya ajintyam. You cannot think of it. It is not an object to be thought of. If it is an object, you can see it. It is drishtam. You can have a vyavaharam with it, if it is an object. But objectivity is denied to Atman. Atman is not an object, like this mic is an object in front of me. Atman is not that. Atman is my very self. Hence you cannot have any vyavaharam with it. Avyavaharyam, alakshanam, ajintyam, avyabadeshyam, indescribable. Ekatma pratyaya saram. And it is indescribable, essentially eka atma pratyayam. That one thought only we can hold about Atman. That is, it is the one without a second. Ekatma pratyayam. One without a second. Saram, the very essence of that, is called pratyaya saram, prapancha upashamam. And there where there is no prapancham, the drik prapancham, the drishya prapancham is no longer there. Suppose I have realized the Atman, then there is no prapancham. Prapancha upashamam. Upashamam has gone into abeyance. There is no prapancham. Prapanchopashamam shantam. What is nature? Shantam. There is nothing to be disturbed about. But we are always disturbed. Why we are disturbed? Because we are in one of the other states. Is it not? Either I am a waker, or a dreamer, or a deep sleeper, or whatever it is. All those are problem creating mithya prapancham. Prapancha upashamam. There is no more this prapancha, OBM, IPF, TOET is not there. In that Atman, Shivam, auspiciousness, incarnate is that Atman. This is not for merely reading. This is for meditation. Please remember. This is not me for reading. Prapancha upashamam shivam advaitam. That non-dual Brahman is called Turya. Chaturtham manyande. In this book it is called the fourth padam. The fourth padam is not the pada of the Atman, but Atman itself. You see the difference? It is not the fourth pada of the Atman, but Atman itself. The other three are the padas of Atman. So what is the meditation there, Omkara meditation? When you start from the Vaishprajna, the Vaikar, then you are thinking about the waking world, and from there you come to the dream world, and from there you go into the deep sleep world, and after the deep sleep, what is there? The fourth state of consciousness, which is nothing but pure primordial silence. Even silence is wrong too. Again another Visheshanam. You understand? Why it is difficult? Why you cannot say any of the things which we have been saying before? That it is consciousness, we cannot say. That it is, he said so. You cannot call it consciousness. You cannot call it unconsciousness. You cannot call it anything. You cannot even call it silence. And what is it? Nothing. You don't try to call it names. That is all I can say. Just be that. Prapancha upashamam shantam shivam advaita. It's a very powerful verse. Don't think you can just walk through it like that.
More to be practiced
than to be thought of. Anyway, we will just, this is the Atman, this is what is known as the fourth in this book, and this is the Atman, and this is to be realized. This is not to be known by the intellect. You understand? This is to be experienced. Anubhuti it is. It is not something which you can just talk about. It is like this, it is like that. It has no qualities, no gunas, no karma. Nothing is there. Then with what you will explain it? Lakshana is not there. Avyabadesham, alakshanam.
The Alakshana explains everything.
So what can you explain about Atman? Only thing you can do is be that, because you are that. Who said? Ramana said that. Who said you are that? Tattvamasi Mahavakyam. Sanat Kumara and Narada in the Chandogya Upanishad. Okay, so that you are. Don't try to explain it. You don't gain anything. That is what scientists do. Everything they explain. Whether the caveman had tapeworms, that is one inquiry in one of the scientific papers I saw. I was so surprised. Nothing better to find out. Whether the caveman had tapeworms in it. Tape. That is an inquiry by one scientist. Even if he had, what is there? Even if he didn't have, what is there? That is how they are. Anything they get, they go on. But here he says, you cannot do such type of analysis with Atman. And yeah, we'll just go read through it in case there is something which will be difficult. Vidiva Prajna. The Supreme Being cannot be described by language, since language can express itself only by describing the qualities, the properties, the actions, etc. of the objects described. So the first thing is, it is not an object. That has to be understood. In the eternal factor, neither qualities nor action can, however, be predicated. Substance is in natural sciences described as that which has properties, and substances are always finite. So is Atman a substance? It is not a substance, except for the Nayayikas. It's not a substance. So hence it has no qualities, and without qualities it is difficult to explain anything in words. Words cannot express it. In case we describe the Supreme Reality as having any property, certainly we will thereby be pulling down the infinite to the finite level. So then instead of being infinite, it will become finite. The immortal to the base level of mortality. Hence we cannot explain it. The only way by which the fourth or the Turiya, the Atman, can be indicated is by the language of negation, which he has adopted here. And this technique is well adopted in this famous description of reality. Nowhere in the literature of philosophy, at any time and in any language, has the reality been so beautifully described. So, read it again and again, embracing in itself all its pregnant implications through the suggestiveness of the words in the language, as we have here. Now, what is this that we are given? The cosmic view of Paramatma, the ultimate non-dual reality through a negation of all things perceived, felt, or thought of. How did he deny the wakerhood, dreamerhood, everything? Is because they are all about a negation of all things perceived, felt, and thought of. All thoughts are negated. Everything is negated. And what remains? The negator remains. Please don't forget that. What remains? I who negated. I am there, who is negating, first of all? Who is negating all this? I am negating. That I. And what is that I? Brahman only. Expressing as I. Nirvikalpaham. To think of Atman in these ways is to enter into meditation. Because the more you think like that, you don't know where you are. Just get into a different state of consciousness. The objectified world is perceived by us through our organs of knowledge, and the world of thoughts and ideas through the instruments of our mind and intellect. But the entire world which we are aware of, including the very instruments through which we cognize the objects, thoughts and ideas in our day-to-day existence in life, all fall under the category of the world of objects. The subject is the eternal factor, the life force, the divine spark. It is pure consciousness, pure knowledge. Again, we are using the word consciousness. We have to use words if you have to communicate. But you must see beyond the words. That is the problem. See, in the maths class, the teacher says, A is a point which has no dimensions. And he puts a dot on the blackboard and puts it A. Is it not? But the student must understand it as what? No dimension. But can you make anything on the board without dimension? Can you? It will have even 0.0000. Dimension is there. So, between the word and between your understanding, there is a gap. That gap is what is being rectified in this verse. When you say Atman is consciousness, that is because for lack of words. Atman becomes consciousness when there are things to be conscious of. This you have to add. This you have to add. Atman becomes Bahish Pratyaha when he is expressing through the waker's mind. You understand? You cannot say Atman is Bahish Pratya. Nor can you say that the waker's mind can by itself function without any consciousness. That is also not possible. It's a very tricky relationless relationship, what Gurudev says. It's a relationless relationship. So, the word, read the word, but go beyond the word. This is called meditation. Go beyond the words and find the truth for yourself. Okay. Now, thus the only way to show this eternal subject is by a negation of all the other fields of experiences and the objects experienced in them. That's exactly what he did. That to know that, I have to negate everything. I have to negate the body and its perception of the objects of the world. Na Bahish Pratyaha. And the mind and its perceptions, not the dreamer. Is it not? And now everything withdrawn and goes into Pratjnana Khanam. Is that the consciousness? Is that the Atman? No. Pratjnana Khanam it is not. Neither it withdraws from the whole world of thoughts, nor it is illumining all these thoughts one by one, only if there is an instrument. That we must remember always. The mind and intellect should be there. Then only the thoughts will be illumined. So now, what did I understand from all this? You have to tell me now itself, not in the discussion class. You break each other's head. So what is its function?
These are all pointers which will be useful for meditating on the
Pointers to truth. Okay. They are all pointers to... Okay. What is most important here is that without an upadhi, nothing takes place. Upadhi is required for Atman to function. Sopadhiga. When it expresses through a upadhi, it's called Sopadhiga Atman with qualities. When it does not express through a upadhi, it is called Nirupadhiga Brahman, the unconditioned Brahman. All these words are used in the Vedantas. So here he says, without becoming a thinker, think of that which cannot be thought of. What is meditation? What is meditation? Who said this? Samartha Ramadas. Great yogi, great Mahatma. He says, without becoming a thinker, meaning what? Without becoming a means what? Without ego. Without that ego, waking ego, or whatever ego it is. Without becoming an ego, think of that which cannot be thought of. Ajintyam. It cannot be thought of. Oh, this is only jugglery of words. Like that we will think. Okay, leave it. Na prajnana ghanam. Why does he say? Now we understood that expressing through the waking mind, you become a waker. Expressing through the dream mind, dreamer, it becomes, you become a dreamer. The same consciousness expressing through the dreamer becomes expressing through the Andaprajna, not Andaprajna. Then he becomes a dreamer, and now Prajnana Ghanam he is saying, nor that which is a mass of consciousness. Why? When we have thus negated the Vaishwanara, the Taijasa, and the state in between, the Ubhayada Prajna, state in between the Vaishwanara and the Taijasa, the thought would at once run for the seeker that it must be then Prajna, the ego in the deep sleep state. All are egos. All three are egos. We have already discussed earlier in the mantra describing the prajna, wherein we found that prajna is a state in which the entire consciousness of the being is withdrawn from the gross body and the subtle body, and the entire lot of it has come to be coiled itself upon itself into a homogeneous mass. That is why it is called prajnana ghanam. It is withdrawn from the world of objects, world of emotions, world of thoughts. And it is lying in itself, by itself, in the deep sleep state. So then it is called, thus by the expression under discussion, the Rishi is negating that in Turiya there is no prajna also. Turiya is not prajna. Turiya is not the waking waker. Turiya is not the dreamer. No prajna, na prajnam, nor that which is simple consciousness. For us easy to say is consciousness. I myself have said 100 times, it is consciousness. But now we are in PhD class. We learn the same thing from LKG to PhD. But when it comes to PhD, we negate all that has been done in the previous classes and say, no, that is not correct. But when we are in small classes, secondary school, we study like that. Afterwards, one by one, we go closer to the truth. Closer and closer and closer. Some such thing is happening here. The entire gamut of negation should naturally leave the student with only one possibility. He must certainly understand then that the Atman is his simple consciousness. But those daring great thinkers of the Hindu philosophy uncompromisingly stood on the platform of their revealed knowledge, walled round so well with their ruthless logic and sturdy reason, and declared that the self in us cannot be described even by the simple term consciousness. Why? This negation is only due to the fact that to describe the reality as having a property would be to make the infinite a finite substance. Its infinitude will be lost. So he says it's not even consciousness. It does not have any property, including consciousness. We cannot say, I have consciousness. We can say, I am consciousness. But I have consciousness, we cannot say. Then it has become a property. Like I have I have a fat body. I have a useless eyes, if we say. We are having all those, we own that. But you cannot say, I am owning consciousness. I am consciousness is the only right way, we can say. So here he says, you cannot say that Turiya has consciousness. Here when he is saying Naprajnam, he is saying that Turiya has consciousness, we cannot say. Later on they are going to say Turiya is consciousness. That is different. I have consciousness and I am consciousness are two different things. The consciousness that I am, that is, there Prajnanam stands for I only. That which is the consciousness, not here the thing is whether Atman has this quality. Atman does not have quality. To describe something, some substance, you must have a quality. Then consciousness is not its quality, consciousness is its very nature. That is how, here when you say Naprajnam, you must understand we are denying a quality to Atman. Is that clear? You have to make it very clear in your mind. It is not an object, it is not a quality. So you cannot even say it's a conscious object. It becomes a Visheshanam. Then what is it? You cannot explain it by consciousness. No words can explain. A term consciousness has a meaning only with reference to the opposite quality, unconscious. The word light is redundant in the sun, for the sun knows no darkness at all, and hence light has no meaning in the sun. So, light is light only with reference to darkness. That's it. Sentience can have some sense only in a world wherein sentience is also has a place. Turiya, the truth, is the illumination of Turiya illumines what? Turiya illumines what? Both darkness and light, let us say. Both sentiency and insentience. Both knowledge and ignorance. I know that I know. I know that I don't know. So who knows? This conscious principle in me knows. Who knows that I don't know something? Again the same. Hence you cannot use this word. It is the illumination of both the sentient and the insentient as well. Na prajnam, nor is it insentient. Can you say then it is insentient? A negation of the only proposition possible in the permutation and combination of the possible terms. If all the previously explained 5 negations be true, then the only loophole through which the finite human intellect could perceive and feel the reality would be through the definition that it is insentient. For we have been told by the Master that the Atman is neither awareful of the outer world, nor of the inner world, nor is it conscious of both, nor is it a mass of consciousness, nor is it a simple consciousness. Therefore, the only possibility is it can only be insentient. Then we will come to the funny conclusion that Atman is inert. Conclusion will be very, very bad. That Atman has no sentiency at all. So, he says, even this negative idea is negated by the reality, by the rishis, when they say that is na prajnam, not that which is insentient. It is not even insentient. In short, the definition in the first half is trying to negate all the 3 planes of consciousness generally known to every man and it also declares that none of the terms or terminologies used in the ordinary language is available in describing the eternal and the immortal. In other words, there is not a word which can describe Atman. Bas, we will go only that far. If you go on going further, like Ashwapati told his student, if you say one more word, your head will fall off. Like that, your heads will fall off if you go on thinking. You understand? And now the other things are easier. Sapramana pradisheda adrishtam nyapti matra swarupa indriya gojara, that we have seen, and avyavaharyam, that the self is an all-pervading factor and that it is not related with other things of the world. In the world, all things and beings have their vyavahara, only in the self. As an analogy, we may take space. Space is not related with anything, and yet no relationship can exist except in space. Similarly, the Atman is not related to anything, but everything is taking place in that Atman, because it is the all-pervading reality. So if you are seeing it because there is the Atman behind you. If you are not seeing, that is also because there is Atman. Everything is possible in that out space which is subtler than space. And yet it doesn't own anything. Avyavaharyam. It doesn't own anything. It is not connected to anything. That is what is said there. Avyavaharyam, agrahyam, incomprehensible by the mind or held by the karmendriyas, both are not possible. Alakshanam, uninferable. There is nothing to which you can compare it. Lakshanam, it has its own lakshanam, we can't say. Alakshanam, no lakshanas. If we cannot perceive a thing through direct experience, then the other channel of ordinary knowledge is inference. That inference is not possible. Thus, we have derived a knowledge through our direct perception that wherever there is smoke, there is fire. In the same way, the inferential knowledge of the existence in Sanskrit terminology is called lakshana. Since the Atman has no such effects from which we could infer its existence, it is called alakshanam, uninferable. Atman does not leave its, what do you call, footprints in time. No. So you can say now the Atman has gone this way. You can say about Lord Krishna, Tava Pandhanam, we are seeing the way you walked. But can we say about Atman, which way it walked? We cannot understand. We cannot. It doesn't leave any signs. Ajintyam, uninferable, unthinkable, avyabadeshyam, indescribable, ekatma prati, essentially of the nature of consciousness. When we are told of all the above negations and have concluded that the supreme reality is indescribable, the student, however intelligent he may be, must necessarily feel despaired and confused, and you are wondering when she will stop reading it. That much bored. So we'll stop that. Because I can see it in your face. In other words, it cannot be the known ways of knowing a thing is not applicable to Atman. That is all. You cannot describe it, you cannot infer it, you cannot say it is this or that, you cannot name it. Then what you can do with it? He says that the Atman is of the nature of pure consciousness. Now first he said, Na prajna. Now he says it is of the nature of pure consciousness. That word is very important. Just like pure light is not available for us to see. Pure light cannot be seen. Only with reference to it's reflected in something you can see pure light, according to science. Similarly, only when that Atman is reflected in some mind, intellect, equipment or some equipment can we know its existence. By itself, it is adrishtam. It's pure. Inference, how it happens? Because there is something else which is illumining it. Is it not? How will I get inference? Something pratyaksham should be there for you to infer. And that pratyaksha is this world. And the mind, intellect, the body, they are all gross compared to the pure consciousness. So he says here, the Atman is of the nature of pure consciousness, pure knowledge. Ordinarily, in our daily intercourse in life, we gain only knowledge of things. Our knowledge is only knowledge of things. But Atman is knowledge. Pure knowledge. Atman is pure knowledge. That is why I told you, Gurudev always used to make fun of us. The 13th chapter when he takes the knower of the field minus the field is what? He will say. And then we will all shout, knower. Is it not? A plus B minus B is what? A. Is it not? So the whole entire audience will say, knower. Then he will say, hey. How can you be a knower when there is nothing to know? Field is gone. How can you be a knower? Knower, and then he will give an explanation which is very beautiful. You can never be a father of an unborn child. You are retired from work. Now you cannot call yourself an officer. You may say ex-officer. The best thing is ex-husband. That is a stupid thing it is. How can one be an ex-husband? Either a husband or no husband. How can one be an ex-husband? So the ex-MLA, and the fellow goes and sits in that legislative hall and stays there for days together, because that's our legislators. Enge free kadakku pokala. So then he says, this Atman, it is subtler than the subtlest, and hence no word can describe it. No concept can conceive it. Though it is a pure consciousness, unless and until that pure consciousness expresses through some other object, you cannot understand it. Is the ultimate understanding of Atman, after having thus indicated to us and what it is, Prapanchopashamam, negation of all phenomenal world, is called Prapancha Upashamam, and Shantam, ever peaceful. You can make out a man has approached the Atman in himself when he becomes quieter and quieter. Adada mudiya. Have you become quiet? Have you become, first talk I told you, have I become more loving? Conscious? Am I living consciously every moment of my life? All this you have to check yourself. Am I able to accommodate everybody in this world? Am I able to be not merely a mass of consciousness, not not a mass of consciousness, consciousness itself, pure consciousness. And am I also pure love? What is pure love? Have you ever experienced it?
Loving without any expectation.
Without any expectation. What is pure love? No expectation in. It is my very nature. Then it has become pure love. Why are you loving everybody so much? I don't know. It is my nature. You understand? Until it becomes, not becomes, until you realize that love nature in you, you do not know how to love. I am of the nature of Anandam. When we say, it only means I am of the nature of love. So then Mahatma sits and everybody comes flogging around him. Why? Because there is peace, Shantam, Shivam, and he is all love. You may have umpteen faults, but Mahatma feels only love. He cannot feel anything else. It is his very nature. No, but we have not seen such Mahatmas. Unlucky, you will see someday. We are always judgmental people. And that is why we don't see. We will never see good in anybody. Have you understood? This much have you understood? If I am nearing the Atman, the self, the fourth state of consciousness, that Atma Vijñeyaha, it has to be realized. Drashtavyaha, are, that has to be seen, that has to be heard of. Srodavyaha, nididhyasidavyaha, in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. That Atman, the self. The moment I am coming closer and closer to it, all these qualities which had been said, inferred, will be yours. Why I should do all this trouble? Because I will become all this. Prapancha upashamam. Prapancha never disturbs my tranquility. Shantam, Shivam, Advaitam. And there is no Dvaita Bhavana in me. Meaning thereby what? Everyone I see is myself. Advaitam means what? There is only one. All are me only. Atma Radihi, Atma Krida. Is it? Atma Truptaha. Atma Radhi, always playing with that Atman within yourself. Atma Krida, because looking at the world outside, he sees himself in so many mirrors. The mind and intellect that are the mirrors. And hence he says, I only am that. It's very difficult to get, but I am telling you. The goal I am telling you. Why is it difficult to get? Because we are always egoistic. That is. Though some great Mahatma blessed by God, he gets that vision. And then he cannot but love. Gurudev used to say in the 12th chapter, when he is taking Adveshta Sarvabhudanam, he cannot hate anybody. And he says, helplessly loving everyone. What is pure love? Helplessly loving everyone. Even if you want to hate, you can't, because it is not in you. Gurudev will coin such beautiful words, which makes it very clear. I alone am. In these various forms, I alone am expressing. So I love everybody. Do I love myself or not? Yes. Atmanastu kamaya sarvam priyam. So I love myself. And these are all who? Not somebody different from me, it's me, myself. When will we reach that, all that? I don't know. Don't ask me that question. One of the glorious definitions of reality, it does not define directly, but it has only accomplished the function through the technique of negation. Directly it did not describe, but indirectly by negation it has described, it has accomplished it. Is to experience within himself the truth which is non-dual and beyond all phenomena. No amount of study and reflection will fulfill the goal of life. Meditation is the royal path to success. I may have opposition leaders here for this. I didn't say, Gurudeva has written. Meditation is the only method. Why should I meditate? If I study, it is enough. Knowledge is enough. How long you are studying, all of you? So many years, But have we realized? Why we are not realizing? Because we have not taken the time to look at ourselves again and again deeply. That is why. So anyway, that is a moot point here, because so many Mahatmas also say there is no need of meditation and all. It is also even practice. Okay, it is a practice. But it is a very powerful practice. And if lazy fellows always will say, what is the use of meditation? So we can't tell them anything. Don't meditate. By merely reading from the book, I am not going to reach this Atma state that I can write and give you. Okay? Something more has to be done. So every day, you have to do Atma Vichara. Call it Dhyana, call it whatever. I have to do Atma Vichar. And this Atma Vichar, this window peep into yourself, is a Nishchitya Shashwan Ashwaram Eva Vishwam Akhilam Nishchitya Vaja Guruho. By the words of the Guru, you have come to that conclusion. All this is perishable. That's what I am seeing in front of me. Nityam Brahma Nirandaram Vimarshadam. Nitya Nirandara Brahma Abhyasam, it is called. If the word doesn't you don't like the word, meditation and all that, then don't use the word. But Nitya Nirandara Nididhyasanam is required or not? Every day some time has to be spent by you in the company of the Atman in you. Atma Vicharam is important. When you do that only, Atman also will be able to guide you to the right goal. Otherwise, no. Every day, please sit. Whether you get meditation or not, sit. Close your eyes. Look within. One day, one fine day, like Kenopadesha says, like the wink of an eye or the flash of a lightning, it will occur to you. Don't think it is not, it is impossible. It's possible for all of us. Here Gurudev, who had always propagated meditation, he said, meditation is the royal path to success and final glory in spiritual life. So So whenever you can, you look within, or you find your own methods. I'm not saying that my method is the only right method. I do not say that. Find your own methods of being with yourself. That is called meditation. That is called nididhyasana. Every day, without fail. You may give up your food for a day, but never give up your meditation. Enter into it with full faith in the words of the scripture and continuously. Nobody should tell you that you must meditate. You have to. Then only. Or there are people who choose very beautiful passages which make you meditative. There in the scriptures there are very many nice passages. Read that and then get into the spirit of that passage. There are so many ways of meditating also. Okay. That is by the way. That is why even a great jnani like Gaudabada pays so much importance to Om Upasana. Om Upasana is only one meditation, nothing else. Why he is telling that we have to meditate? Because to purify the mind and make it full of Brahma Vicharam, and in that Nididhyasanam, you will reach the truth. We will stop there. And now that we have finished it, it is easy to walk through the Kariga. And not difficult. We haven't. I have no idea. It's quite long. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purna